We're good. It's okay. All right, so pledge of allegiance, everybody. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, first issue is, does anyone have conflict of interest with anything on tonight's agenda? And I will start with April. No. Paul?
No.
Me, Jean, no. Misty? No. Hey, Marcy, sorry, no, I was about to call you April. Okay, so the first thing item up on the agenda is the consent agenda, where we were going to approve previous minutes of previous meetings. And we have different people who were here and weren't here. So what we're gonna do is take each minutes and approve them separately. Because we cannot have this as a consent agenda and have one person abstain, another abstain from something else. So let's start off with the March 14th, 2024. That would have been a work meeting. So does anyone have any objection to approving the minutes for the March 14th, 2024 Town Council work meeting? Anybody?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the March, it was that March 14th, Town Council work meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. I want to take a minute before we move on to the rest of the minutes for approval, and I realized that when I started off the meeting, I did not do my usual for whoever happens to be watching the meeting in the future for a YouTube video. That this is Tuesday, today is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. We started the meeting at 6 o'clock sharp, and this is the regular town council meeting for the town council in Virgin, Utah. All right, back on to where we were. So next is the minutes of the regular town council meeting that took place March 19th, 2024. Anyone on town council has any objection to approving these minutes? March 19th. Okay, I make a motion that we approve the town council minutes for the March 19th, 2024 regular town council meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we are at the March 27th, 2024. What was this meeting? Was this the joint meeting with planning commission? Okay, this was the joint meeting with planning commission and town council. And Paul, I believe you wanted to abstain?
Yes, that was not that.
Okay, good. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the March 27, 2024 joint meeting of the planning commission and town council.
Motion to approve March 27th, 2024 joint meeting with planning commission meeting minutes.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Paul abstains. Okay. Next is approval of the April 11th, 2024 minutes from the April 11th, 2024 work meeting of the town council. Anyone object to approving those minutes?
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't in attendance.
Okay, anyone else?
I'll make the motion to approve the April 11, 2024 Town Council work meeting minutes.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Except for Marcy abstained. Okay. And lastly, the minutes for the April 16th, 2024 regular town council meeting. Marcy, you were going to abstain for that one too.
Correct.
All right. So the rest of you, any objections?
I had a couple of changes, or
Did you go online? And
I did, and then when the changes were made, I looked at them again just this afternoon.
Okay.
And there's just a couple of things, they're more just related to, I guess. things that just didn't quite make sense to me, so if you were to go to, section D, where the zoning administrator was discussing it, it says the Flying Monkey has 20 dome type lodging units, comma, and they are working, comma. And that just doesn't quite make sense. What does that
What do you
mean?
think you actually said, Jean?
I think there's probably 2 words missing on it, working on it.
On it.
Okay, working on it, and we haven't heard from them for a
Oh,
while.
I got it.
Okay.
And then
And
what's
then,
that?
there was one other. Oh, okay, and then on the next first page, or the following page, it says, April McKeon asked Jean what the regulation changed by the DWQ that was disallowed, it probably should say, the change by the DWQ that disallowed, and eliminate was.
Anything else?
That's all.
That's it, okay. I make a motion that we approve the April 16th, 2024 minutes of the April 16th, 2024 regular town council meeting with the corrections just proposed by April 15th.
Sorry.
All in favor? And again, Marcy abstains. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda was Jay Lee to do an update on the mosquito abatement. Did Jay Lee contact you, Crystal? That you wanted to
They
do an
sent a
update?
bunch of stuff, via email, so I thought he would be here today.
Okay, because he normally only does like an update quarterly.
Yeah, they had a bunch of stuff sent via email,
Okay,
so I thought he might have been here
okay,
today.
well, if he shows up, we'll do that. Okay, next then is Jean Durati to give updates as the zoning administrator, gives updates on the building projects still out of town.
You'll notice that it's the same exact sheet that you got for the last 2 months, because they're all just in different stages of progress, but nothing new at this point. I'll go over with you those. So Flying Monkey is getting really close to drawing their permit. They have, they're working on an appointment to come in and meet with myself and Kim to make sure they've got everything that was assigned to them from the DRC. Project, you can see as well as I can where that's at, but they're getting pretty close to finishing up the convenience store. And then I'm guessing at that point, we're gonna start on the bungalows. My understanding, we're gonna start on those simultaneously, but I haven't seen any progress. They did get the cap on their sewer system, a couple of weeks ago, some caps on that, so that's in place. Red Coyote, I don't know what the name of this project is. Jeff hasn't alluded what the name of this project is gonna be at this time, but there's been quite a bit of dirt movement, and I know Paul is working with them on their water connection and other infrastructure projects at this time. The Virgin Goods, Virgin Acres, I'm still working through processes on them. Trying to remember, Kim, what was it we did with them last week?
They've asked me a question too, and I cannot remember what it is. I've got to reply. I need to.
There's something that they've got to work through. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. They were looking to add a little overhang on the side of the current store. And so we looked at that. It doesn't cause any problems with their setbacks or any other issues. So I think that's all we're looking for. A little shed from the side. No, it's a little plan. It's something that was looked at. It wasn't a major change. It was just a small, like, utility shed or something they're gonna do on the side of the building. It did not move into their non-conforming use. It doesn't approach the highway.
Is it on the west end or the east end or?
I think it's on the east end, if I remember right.
I'm sorry, are we still talking Virgin Good?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
It's on the east side. I think it's back behind the building, so it wasn't setting into the road, it was back kind of behind it.
And they were still under the part of the review.
Yeah, it's just being looked at. So. That was not an issue.
And I have a question when we get to Zion White Bison here. I have a question.
Okay, I'm gonna need a pen. Oh, and then this one? That's fine. Yeah, so Zion White Bison, yeah, they've got multiple things going on at the same time, but. They also had to do an alteration on one of theirs, but it was not a major change to their plans. I can't remember for, I can't remember off the top of my head, what the last one.
That was just a little addition of the e-bikes. That was more, I think, just for storage and refrigerators,
That's right, okay.
that type of thing.
Quail Mesa, I had
No,
heard.
no, I have a
Oh,
question.
you want to slide, take a look at
Number
what,
one, what is this? It says lodging under construction, what lodging is that?
the same ones have been working, it's nothing.
And then you have here the building permit was issued for the gas station?
That was a long time ago.
I know, I remember they came
But they have
in,
not done anything.
Anything.
I mean, moving
so
during.
there's a time limit on when we issue a building permit.
90
Okay.
years.
Is it a year?
That's days to start.
Pretty sure the uniform buildings.
Okay. All right, but my question here is this. You'll have to come look at this photo I took. Need to know what this building is. I have a complaint. What is that?
Is here, in front.
That building is under construction. I don't remember seeing any plans for that. What is that?
I think that's part of their, pool house.
Oh,
Let me find out.
okay, I'll show you this picture so you can follow it.
I have a question on the White Bison as well, the temporary CO and that's for because they don't have their septic permits, right? So I think you said the temporary is for 6 months,
I couldn't remember, we're looking at last.
Okay.
1 year.
It's
it
one,
was 1 year, so what's the expiration on that? October this year?
thank you, Kim.
Okay, I just even texted you this picture, so you can follow up on there. Okay. Well, Lisa.
We're going back to this one, it's looking at that. Okay, yeah, with Quail Mesa, we haven't heard anything, or I haven't heard anything new. I don't know if Ken has received any contact from them.
Other than working towards their final plat.
Yeah.
No, I can tell you they're waiting for an indemnification agreement. And I talked with Robert this afternoon, maybe an hour ago, and he asked if he could have his attorney draft the indemnification agreement and send it to us, and I said, I didn't have a problem with that. Okay,
So we're still on that.
yeah,
And then, of course, okay, away, they're moving in filter, they've got the infrastructure and some piles of dirt in there, they're moving the filter to bring things out to the height that they want. And that's really all I got. Questions for you?
I do have a question, so just a reminder, had asked if you would put a date on these, I know it hasn't changed, but I would appreciate that.
Yes.
And then the Flying Monkey Unplugged, so I was driving back from camping trip recently. And they had these dome-like structures that were bright white, like they stood out for a mile.
this was somewhere else, this was.
Somewhere.
Okay, right.
And so I was hoping that you could talk with them about having a color that blended in with the natural landscape.
I'd be happy to do that. It's my understanding that was what they were gonna do anyway, but I'll bring it up with them and tell them it's really important.
And then, on the bridge, I was noticing their canopy structure for the gas pump area. And looking at our codes, and I just wanna make sure that they comply with our codes as talks about having a certain amount of stone
That's correct.
and things like that, so.
Yes, and that's been brought up, it was brought up in the original, and then here about, when they first put in the vertical structures, I remind them again, they have that's their plan.
How are they gonna put stone on the canopy?
So the canopy, pillars have to be
Pillars,
set still at a certain
Okay.
height,
Right.
high code.
Yeah, and if you could follow up with Red Coyote, is the name of the project, I
I can
mean,
do that.
maybe they purchased the name Red Coyote, I don't know if it was.
I think he's gonna call it something different. So next month I'll be able to report all that to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anything else?
no, that's it. All right, thanks, Steve.
I'm good.
Okay. Bronwyn, you're up.
Before you want to be.
Sorry, Trina. Bring it back to my house, I'll recycle them.
We'll just give them back to you as you walk out the door.
No, we want these.
Oh, thanks for these, few more. Thank you for those.
Okay, so just an update on what planning and zoning has been up to. We have a busy month or so. So we're working on a general plan, which was studying from those 5 counties. And we're working on, right now, survey questions and the format for the plan. I wanted to bring up the survey questions because that has to do with the public. We are trying to get as much public input as we can, so, get a lot of comments. Good time to spill your guts, right? Everything you want and don't want with these general plan surveys. For us, also, we have open houses to take public input on those. And, the first one will be on June 21st. So from 4 to 7, so we'll be here, so that the town can come and give their input on the general plan. Also, next month at our meeting in June, we have, because of dark sky coming, just in case anybody has questions, we're starting on, we're working on a lighting ordinance, and also we'd love to get dark sky certified, because we lose nothing, we're a small town, for us to qualify it. Some people in the district, it's, from what I've seen, it's just right up our alley, it's kind of what everybody I've heard in the town wants anyway, which is just to be able to see stars. So we're working on that with him, getting the dark sky ordinance and, I'm sorry, the ordinance for lighting, and then working toward the dark sky designation. If you want to learn more about that, come to our meeting on the 12th. I was gonna bring handouts for that too, but I thought I was getting a little much. Let's see, planning and zoning commissioners went to training, as you all know, because you probably came to ULTC in St. George, and also to Cedar City for the American Planners Association conference. It was great. That planning conference was great. We learned a ton. So that was fun. As far as ordinances go, we sent to you this month in May, we sent you the billboard ordinance and the ordinance adopting portion of or adopting the transportation plan from UDOT in the portions that were applicable to us, into the general plan. So next time you get something from us, it will have one of these beautiful little cover sheets on it, okay? So just so we have a tracker for this, just tells you what our recommendations were, if there was any dissenting opinions, any other comments, and have the fiscal, we have a chart with the fiscal, it's not on here, but we'll attach it, with the fiscal impact, environmental impact, and what else? Community impact, so you guys will get lots of information from us with what we give to you. Moving forward, just to get a little more organized. The other thing you have in your little packet from me is a request for action. So this is if the town council needs something from us. So, and the mayor asked for this document, so, hopefully what she would like, it's what we would like, and it has the date when we receive it, the date, the action deadline, so whenever you need something back from us, we'll have a date in writing that says, I need this back right at this point, okay? So that will help us meet our needs. We have, then it just has, any other pertinent information. The more you tell us, the better job we can do to support you guys. Okay. The ordinances we are working on, just to quickly review. We are working on chapter 52, the sign ordinance. So we had an initial public hearing on that, and we are making some few changes in that we felt were important. We're set for a second public hearing on June 12th. The housing size ordinance, which I have gotten tons of feedback on. Actually, most of it after the first public hearing, which was in May. We had the first public hearing, we have it set for a second public hearing on June 12th. Okay, and we did make some revisions, we didn't get a lot of public feedback And at the time of our, public hearing, we've gotten a lot since. And, you know, I'm really proud of the commission because there's lots of opinions and every single person that we work with on just making sure that, you know, it's ready for the second public hearing has been so rational about, okay, what do we need to change? How does this interface with our other ordinances? You know, what are realistic numbers? What numbers benefit the town and what numbers are a detriment to the people that already live here? How do we make all that work in a way that's fair and right? So we've spent a lot of time on that. We should have it ready for public hearing on the 12th. We also have PC 24C, which is, use designations and uses, some other vital definitions for the code, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to read more about it, feel free. So that's actually set for public hearing, its second public hearing on June 12th. We're working on still the transient lodging. Chapter 60, it's comprehensive, it's big, and I have an outline that I'm going to mail to you guys that I've given to somebody, but just so you know what's coming. We're a little bit slow, but that's because we're trying to be careful. We're trying to make it so it's not something that has to be revealed and switched and changed. We really want to cover the bases, so. As a commission, what we'd like to ask for from the town council is, first of all, clarity when we need it, so we know what we need to do and when. And the next thing would be support, because we're a tool for you guys, and there are people on this commission who are willing to do the homework for you. We're willing to dig in and find the right things as far as, you know, what kind of zoning will work, what length will work, what do we need to have in our code that will help our town overall. And you know, I haven't seen anybody on the commission yet who ultimately will put the politics before the needs of the town. And to have a body like that in your pocket, to be able to rely on a body like that, that's a huge asset to you. And as a commission, we would ask that you use that. Thanks.
I have one suggestion for you on this form.
Sure.
You can take it.
I have many.
No, it's
Right, I
right,
suggested you read.
it's such a big thing.
Oh, I think I can do that.
Okay,
And your problem.
open forum. This is 2 minutes per speaker if you want to talk about anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Okay, Stan.
Hi, I'm Stan Berg, and anyway, just wanted to bring a couple things up. 3 years ago, the area along SR9 by Desert Gardens was a total mess. The weeds were just overrun down there, the trees were super bad need of trim, and took a lot of work to get there. But about 2.5 years ago, I started going out and cleaning up a little bit at a time to try to make it look better. So, you know, one thing I wanted to do was help not only where I live, but also the town to be more presentable. Along with that, Charlie and Cheryl Sliger joined myself and were a tremendous help. Also, Gary Keener lent his tractor where needed and also helped us out. But yeah, the weeds and grasses were extremely overgrown. The trees were in bad need of being trimmed. The drip system was in total shambles. The line that was laid out was put on the top of the ground out there and it had sun rotted. So every time the water was turned on out there, it ran into a leak. And so, so anyway, Charlie and Cheryl, along with myself, and we got one-day help from the local LDS work crew that really helped us get that cleaned up. I mean, we hauled dump truckloads of stuff off there. We got the trees trimmed, we got the drip system replaced and buried, and everything working good. We had planted 103 cactus and agave plants along there. And this is something that in 3 or 4 years, maybe now, would really turn out being neat, especially this time of the year when they're all flowering. We put a rock border in to highlight the area and had it looking real nice. Anyway, last year things started to slip. Charlie and Cheryl really worked hard to keep things up. I was having some medical issues, so, and some health issues, so I couldn't be of much help through all of last year and up through this year. And anyway, this year, the weeds and grasses have got out of hand because we couldn't keep up with it last year. I purchased some weed killer and it sure helped, but was not enough to do the whole area. We cleaned up all of last year's winter debris, tumbleweeds, all the stuff that blew on the ground, the garbage, and many garbage bags were filled. Cleaning that up. And I texted the mayor to see if the town could supply some weed killer to help us get some of this under control. I did not get a reply,
I'm sorry.
so I took that
I
as a no.
apologize.
I took that as a no.
No, it should have been a yes, but okay, go on.
You know, this is Desert Gardens, but wouldn't it be nice if in each neighborhood in town took some pride in whatever kind of beautification project to make their neighborhoods look better? I think the whole town would be better off for it, and, anyway, that's what I'm still trying to strive to do here, and, so thank you.
Dana. I didn't even turn mine on.
Appreciate that, Stan. I actually think because that is the entrance to our town in particular, you know, on the west side. The town should actually, maybe put a little more effort into that and help with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be up to the neighborhood, you know. I mean, you see a lot of times in areas in St. George and Washington where you enter very next to a subdivision, it's just all this beautiful landscaping and, you know, really enhances the town and everyone else with the beauty. I mean, we really need to improve the landscaping along SR9, I think, to beautify our town. I appreciate the work that you've done.
Actually turned an overwhelming job for, you know, for the three of us, so like I say, I'm now still.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we really need to, put forth an effort to, just improve our landscaping throughout town. And I think Desert Garden area would be a great place to start.
Once we adopt the master transportation plan, which will be on our agenda next month, you guys sent it from planning commission, as Bronwyn pointed out, but I do not have it on the agenda for tonight, but it will be on next month's agenda. Once we do that, we can apply for all sorts of funding from UDOT to do landscaping from one end of town to the other. So, I mean, we'll have to put in money for it, but UDOT won't pay for all of it, but they will pay for some. But once we adopt that master transportation plan, we can apply for grants. So, and I think there's going to be a trail, you know, there was supposed to be a regional, multi-use trail. It was going to go from Laverne and all the way to Springdale. And they got $12 million to build the trail, but they've been waiting to see what was gonna happen in Virgin. With regard to whether we were going to have sewer along the highway, what's gonna happen, and so they've been waiting on that. And, but I expect they'll be getting started before too long, and I have a feeling it's gonna be right there, where we've been doing some of that landscaping. On the investment parts, I think it's going on that side of the highway. So, we'll see what happens with that. Okay, anybody else for open forum? Something not on the agenda?
Yes, my name is Warren Campbell, and I'm here because of something on the agenda, but I'm not gonna talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna talk about the importance of the public in keeping us informed about what's going on. I've seen an alarming trend recently with agendas coming out on Thursday and then having them be radically changed or additional items added on Monday night. That is not the way to get people involved in knowing what's going on. We're all busy, we miss things. When we receive less than, barely 24 hours of notice, that is not being open and transparent. Tonight, you passed 3 minutes approvals for March. That is not being open and transparent. I'm assuming those are not available to the public yet because they haven't been approved. I went back and looked at the town website. There are no minutes from any of your meetings for a year. posted on the, town website. I've also had problems with town codes not being updated. If you want the public to be involved, you've got to give us the tools to be able to inform us. And we don't want to come down and bug Crystal to look for something that should be on the town website. So that's my comment, is please do a better job at keeping people informed, keeping your website up to date, and getting all the information out to us. So thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Anybody else? If not, we will move on to council comments. So, anybody on the council have comments either in response to Stan or Lauren, or something that you want to say on your own? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, that no, oh, there you are. Okay, well,
For nobody else.
okay.
Stan and Laura, thank you for your comments. I do appreciate them. And I agree with them. So we need to do a better job at both such different ends. One's on transparency, the other's on taking care of our community and freeway, but I think we need to work together and come up with better solutions.
I do also think we could do a better job. We can always improve, you know? A lot of us are kind of new at town council and I've been on the other side of the podium a lot and, you know, I was wanting to see things improve and hopefully we're moving in that direction. So, we'll take those comments to heart and see if we can make sure we just are more transparent and do a better job getting these things out to the public.
Yeah, and you may not be alone, you know, we may be feeling the same crunch or issues as well, so it's nice to know we all have support for each other.
So when you said we could do a better job with regard to what?
I think just making sure that things are posted on the website and maybe updated codes. I mean, I almost don't even know what that process is right now. Exactly.
Everything's updated except for the ordinance that was passed, a month ago.
So are the minutes on, I mean, I see the minutes on.
The minutes are on the Utah Public Notice website. When they get approved, Crystal puts them up on the Utah Public Notice website, and that's what's required by the code.
So have you looked on that?
And it's
Lauren?
not a section, it's not a separate thing called minutes.
Okay,
It's like if there's the May meeting, she'll go back to the Utah Public Notice website for the May meeting and put the May minutes in there. And then when the June meeting takes place, when the minutes get approved, she goes back to that and puts them in there. So they're on the Utah, like, for example, all of these, there were various reasons why these were not approved. And it had nothing to do with just holding off and just not approving them. There were various reasons. And we talked about them at every meeting as to why they were not getting approved. Meanwhile, she will go on to the Utah Public Notice website and put these all on there for each month.
so you wouldn't necessarily get an alert, you would have to go
No,
actually look.
you can get an alert.
Oh, you can,
So
you ask them.
if you subscribe to the body, you'll get an alert anytime that Crystal makes an edit to that particular website. It'll alert you and say there was a change made and you subscribe to each body. So you'll get the alert for each body. So like tonight, I got, or this week and last, I got like 6 notifications. I didn't count them all, I'm just throwing them out. Like 6 notifications that told me that Crystal had made changes to various things on the website and posted the agendas, posted items. So if you just subscribe to those, you'll get them in your emails. And and we can also, maybe we need to put that in where our minutes are, just the link to the public notice website. It might already be there.
Here's the thing. Can I ask a question?
Just
Wait,
a
wait.
minute.
Okay.
And that's a good idea for the link, but is there any reason we can't put the minutes on our website?
Unless we have a dedicated IT person, it's a little bit of a challenge to upload things to your website unless you have a very well-built website with a very robust backend that you can access. That's the problem that a lot of municipalities had with keeping that type of information that the public wants. So the state went out and made the public notice website just for this very reason. It's very user friendly. And it's a place where towns and cities can put all of their information, their agendas, all the support items for the agendas, and then you can put minutes backwards onto it too. You can even upload links to YouTube so they can sit and watch prior to meeting, things like that, which, you know, unless you're a web guru and, you know, a technology guru, that can be pretty, I think I know my way around a computer, but I couldn't do that.
Well, I will say that since we have a budget, a public hearing coming up in about 2 or 3 minutes on the budget. If you guys want an IT person to update our town website, we gotta put in the budget to hire an IT person to maintain the website. I don't have time. I've got so many things to do. We've got no one to maintain that
Well,
website.
no, that's why I'm just asking what the questions and parameters are. I mean, I know how it needs to be done on certain websites. And really, it's not a hard process, but it's a timely process. And you have to teach somebody, once you teach it, it's pretty simple,
The
but it
web-
takes time.
The website company, the company that did, that provides everything and did the website for us, they will update our website for us for a fee. If we send them constantly saying, we need this, we need this, we need this, they'll do it for us. They're gonna charge us an arm and leg, but they'll do it.
You could get a high school person, we can talk about that at the budget.
Yes.
But you can get a high school person to come in, or somebody from the college that needs work study and can do it once a week, those are options.
Bronwyn, if you were about to talk about that, just hold on for the public hearing for the budget, and you can talk about it in the budget hearing.
Keith, maybe you can advise us about draft minutes, and whether or not those can be made available to the public.
No, they're not. Draft minutes are not to be released. They can be requested and disclosed, subject to written. Once they've been approved, then, you know, and that's why we do have an
Is
obligation.
that because we're a town or?
No, not because it's a town, it's just because they're draft only and we don't want to, there could be modifications and changes and we don't want to, if there's errors in the draft minutes, we don't want to lead the public astray, or make it look like things are getting changed. Where they might be getting changed, but changed hopefully for accuracy purposes, but yeah, that's a standard, not advised. That we just shouldn't be providing.
So
draft
in the alternative, is there a solution to where maybe the public could expect to see the video recording posted on YouTube within, say, 3 days? Is that unrealistic? I mean, if the minutes can't be made available through draft, we have to wait 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for us to get around to doing an approval, that people are waiting for the video to be posted.
Marcy, on that? Yeah, and that's a good idea. I sent an email to the mayor and suggested that we have our rules of procedure at our next work session. And that might be a good place that we kind of address that.
Okay,
Not to cut you off, but
no, thank you. Yeah, that's good.
May I ask a question about the public notice website, because I don't know. What I sometimes find is I keep getting public notices and it'll have minutes from this month, it'll have minutes for February. The next month it'll have minutes from February, then it'll have, you know, and it just repeats and it's like, which one is the most recent one? Which one is the final one, or do they actually keep changing?
They don't, they don't, it's not, we don't put draft minutes, upload them to the public notice website, only final minutes once approved. I do
So it's hard to
think,
find.
yeah, there's some really neat things about that website and how the public can be notified. I would say there's some improvement that can be done that could make that website a little more searchable and user friendly for the end user.
Lauren, I'd be happy to sit down with you,
Okay,
show you and Bruce.
all right.
Appreciate that.
Anything else? Council comments? Okay, let's move on. Next item is the public hearing, so we're going to have 2 public hearings. One public hearing will be on the, compensation for the treasurer. And the second public hearing is on the proposed budget. I suspect these will be awfully quick public hearings. So I need a motion to close the open meeting and open the public hearing.
Motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing.
I'll second that. I will do a roll call vote on this. April? Aye. Paul?
Aye.
Jean, yes. Misty? Yes. Marcy? Okay, all right, we are now in a public hearing, and so the first item up is the ordinance amending the Virgin Municipal Code, setting forth the town treasurer compensation. Anyone in the public sitting in this room have a comment that they would like to make about this ordinance? It was on the, Utah Public Notice website for everyone to, look at. As expected, I'll do a quick public hearing on this one, no comments. Next issue is, the proposed budget for Virgin Sounds fiscal year 24-25. Anyone, and this also was published on the Utah Public Notice website for everyone to see and review. And if you have any issues about the proposed budget for the town, you are free to make a comment at this time or ask any questions if you don't understand the budget, how it's laid out. Okay, no comments. So now we can, I will take a motion to close the public hearing and go back to the public meeting.
Motion to close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
Second.
Okay, and I'm gonna do a roll call vote again, just because this involves the budget. I'm gonna start with Marcy.
Aye.
Misty? Yes. Jean? Yes. Paul?
Aye.
And April?
Aye.
Okay, so now we are on to talking about the budget. So public meeting, item number 1, adoption of the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget and to set a hearing pursuant to Utah Code 10-5108. So what, if anything, do you guys have to talk about with regard to the budget? Because, Candace came in yesterday, I think it was, and met with Crystal, and they opened up the budget worksheet, and she put in all the numbers that we talked about at the budget meeting on Thursday. So, anything else other than, do you guys want to consider putting in some money in the budget for an IT person to do their town website?
That's on my list.
Okay,
I do have one quick question, is this, for this item, it says we're setting a hearing. So are we not adopting this tonight and there's
It's
gonna be
just-
another hearing?
yes, if you read this code, we are required by this code 10-5108 to adopt the budget and set a public hearing. And then at that meeting, we will actually,
Adopt it again?
Well, we fix it in final format for publication and hear, and the hearing on it, then you finally adopt it, but
it's an adoption.
yeah, it's confusing.
The way I looked at it, and I mentioned this before to us, but to the public, I'll mention again, the mayor proposed her budget. And then we take a look at it and we make changes to it, adopt it, and then set it for public hearing. That proposed mayor budget becomes the town council's tentative budget, and then we will pass it as a final budget. And the only way I
You're
would look
adopting
at
the
it,
proposed budget for the hearing, then you adopt the budget in final form.
So any adoption tonight is not final.
It's
No, that's why it says
Gotcha.
adoption of proposed. Okay, and what we will be doing next month at the same time as this is we amend the final budget for this fiscal year. And so we first adopt the budget for this fiscal year, the amended budget, fixing everything for this last quarter, and then we adopt the budget for next year.
Perfect.
Okay, And we do a public hearing on both of those next month.
Whole list of stuff.
Okay, so do you want to talk about now?
It's all budget related.
Is it something that came up since we had our meeting on Thursday?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had it, but I just,
Okay. What?
on Thursday, it was my fourth budget meeting.
Yeah, that's-
Kind of, right.
So tell me what account number you're talking about.
I'm not talking about specific account.
Oh, okay.
These are just concerns that I wanted to voice. I'm concerned about, there being enough money budgeted for capital outlay in the various accounts. Because I'm unable to decipher from the capital improvements, spreadsheet that you shared with us, what is actually being funded based on, in comparison to that and the budget. And I would like to see the town make hard commitments to capital improvements, rather than just leaving money sitting in the general fund. I think making that hard commitment is the responsible thing to do. Previous administrations would not commit to that. They wanted flexibility, and I'd like to see that trend change. I think the amount budgeted for travel is excessive, especially since we don't have a travel policy. I think it should be allocated, in a certain order, such as the top, number one would be any travel for required trainings and certifications and licensing of the position, and then second, necessity for support, training and development. And then moving on down the line to like for meetings outside of the local community area or anything that has a requirement to stay overnight. Currently we have budgeted for $58,000 for travel to conference. And then I also would like to see a spreadsheet that breaks down the details of contract labor expenses. I mentioned this on Thursday. It didn't really get a sufficient answer. What all does that include? I understand that that's probably zoning administrator, building inspector, the accountants, and various other things, but I don't know what those are, and I don't know what that breakdown is of its costs. Also, Rule 4.06 allows the planning commission to employ experts and consultants to help carry out their responsibilities. I think they could use that. I think we should tap into that and budget for that for them. There was talk about events. I don't know if we talked about that on Thursday, but I think.
I don't remember us
Might have
talking
said
about
something. It says 4th of July. I think it's meant for all events.
Yeah.
But I have a question of why are some events free and why are others not? The Easter events seem to be free, but 4th of July is not.
I have never known us to charge for an event.
Well, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to help with the 4th of July and, you know, Darcy's working on coordinating it. She's getting ahead of the game and planning, and there's gonna be costs for tickets and things like that. So somebody's gotta collect money for that. I'm not sure who's bonded, who's not. Where does that money go?
This is the first time we have charged money for things.
Okay, so
That's-
that just,
So what she's talking about is back before we changed our events. They did charge for tickets when the kids played the games.
Now, I thought she said that's what they're about to do.
Right,
This-
so
this
it
4th of
has
July.
happened. It was it's been 3 or 4 4th of Julys back. And that's when it was charged for. That's what she's talking about. They're going back to that. So there is money, but it's for tickets for games. It's for tickets for a few of the games.
and I don't care. I don't really have an opinion on whether fees are charged or not charged. I just think there should be consistency. I also want to know where those funds are going and how those funds are being directed back into a specific.
Typically, they went back into the event fund.
Okay.
And then like one thing that we did is one year any proceeds that they made from it would buy something for the town. They would say what that is before the event, so we.
Right, it's like almost
What we
like a
were going
fundraiser.
for, like the flag one year, I think the flag on the pole and things like that. There were different things like that were done, and as far as bonding, we have to have one of our employees go,
So it's either the treasurer or the clerk.
so I understand.
So, thank you.
But it could be wrong, it could be.
Yeah, I have no idea. So moving on, the accountant, I thought that was really great for Candace to come out. She's super helpful. I appreciated the documents that she provided. In the information, it appears that there's a trend of wages going up and services and capital outlay going down. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but 52% of the general fund revenue comes from taxes and 63% is allocated to administration. And I don't particularly understand what administration equates to. But I feel like that the community should be the primary benefactor of any sources and should be conservative and mindful of its spending. And then my last thing is a big one, and it kind of dictates the whole rest of the agenda for the night, and it's all about salaries and positions and planning, and I just want to say that I will not support the hiring of any new positions or appointments or any pay increases for any position that's not classified and accompanied by a job description and established pay plan and performance evaluations. We need to do some salary planning before I can support budget allocations. And we have a lot of positions and we're growing. We have employees, we have appointments, we have elected, we have contracted, and now there's 3 more positions being added. And where is the balance? When is the time to stop and take a hard look and apply some strategic thinking? So. I have a lot more, but I can get the gist, so we're gonna see that.
Okay. Misty, do you have anything about the budget?
We only talked about it on Thursday, I feel like.
I have nothing to say about the budget other than if you guys want to amend the budget to include, an IT person to do the website. Other than that, I've got nothing to say about the budget. Paul?
Well, I'm thinking about the IT person, because when you say IT, that conjures up a different understanding for
Okay,
me
a webmaster.
than a webmaster.
Okay,
Because I think we have an IT
We do.
person on staff, yeah, or that
Well-
contract.
contract.
Yeah, and so the web, I'm thinking about Misty's suggestion on minutes, just having it posted to direct you to the public knowledge website, which is great, except for, as he said, to do any search. It used to be fantastic for the search engine, and then they changed it about a year ago. And that search engine is really difficult to maneuver. You know, what I would like us to do, because we can always come back and amend the budget to hire or contract for somebody to do what we want with the website, but I think we need to explore that a little more, and maybe after we develop our rules and procedures, then we can decide what we want to do with it. So I think I'd like to see the minutes there, because the tendency of most members in the public is to go to our website, and it's not updated, and I'd like to see that updated. And
So here's what I
not knowing how much that's gonna cost, I can't allocate the
Okay.
budget right now, but if we know between now and June, maybe. And we'll have our work session next month on rules of procedure, and we'll have a better idea by the June meeting.
And isn't that contracted labor?
That would be contracted labor unless, yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'd like to have an idea of the breakdown of each of those things, because what about human resources services? Because I know the budget was amended this year or just last year to add some funding.
Yes.
To pay for some stuff, so I'm just wondering, I just, when I see contracted labor, it's just a lump sum amount, so I have no idea how to figure out what that.
Well, everything in our budget is a lump sum.
Yes, I know, but that's something that is more difficult to decipher. I can figure out salaries and wages usually, because we know who we employ, but, and some of the other stuff is easy, but that's something that a lot of things I think are lumped into.
As long as I've been on town council and, this is how the budget worksheet, I've never seen a breakdown ever. From what comes from our accounting program, I have never seen it give us a breakdown of what any of these are. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I've never seen in the budget process where they have printed that out.
But there's a way to figure out, like, historically, what we've spent on accountant fees, zoning administrator, IT, building inspector, like, there's data available, right?
I will ask Candace to print you a breakdown of what was in the contract labor. I will ask Candace to do that.
And there is on our SharePoint, because I asked for it, spending from July
Present.
well, it's not quite the present,
Well,
but whenever they
yeah.
posted it. So you can go under there and look under contract labor and see what bills we paid out, but it doesn't answer your question. It takes a little more work to figure out which ones are going to this contractor and what's that for.
Right, I'm not-
It becomes a little more difficult to figure that out.
We might have to have a completely different accounting program that we use to answer some of the questions
Well,
you're wanting.
Somebody put together, I don't know if it was you or the accountants, but the list of employee wages and salaries in the different
That was the
positions.
accountant.
Okay, so basically the same thing, but for contract labor.
There is a way to break things down. Just have to ask, take it all in order, it's to we'll show you that they'll separately involved. And then you can break it, that's how they break it on the salary. It's like a typical, budgeting system.
Yeah,
You just have to keep drilling down.
yeah,
To
no,
find
I
what
get
you're
it.
looking for. So you have to ask specifically for it
And live in that.
to get it, right? That's why I'm explaining it that way, because you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so let's, so, Miss, you're not done?
No.
Oh my gosh, okay, what
What
else?
if I jack all my comments here?
What else?
So there's their own conversation.
Okay, what else?
I agree, well, the other thing I'd like to see, which we haven't seen in the budget, I think is a stipend for
Capital improvement.
capital improvements. But I'm all right in waiting until, and we can do an amendment in the future, until we come up with an idea what that should be and a policy, and maybe I can write that into our capital improvements policy.
And we need a new committee.
Yeah, and so we need to get that, so just to know that I can see a very small amendment coming forward. Marcy, I agree with you with that, fixed capital improvements account. I think that was a discussion that you weren't here for, but we had it with Candace, and maybe you heard it on the thing, maybe you weren't, because you mentioned flexibility. I want to meet with Candace and discuss that further, because I do see the need for flexibility, but I still think there's a way to do that, to funnel money to the capital improvements account for the future for capital improvements, instead of doing on a yearly basis to which we do it. It's just a matter of figure out how much we're doing it. In fact, we're doing it for the sinking fund for the wastewater. That's exactly kind of what we're doing. And it's already in our resolution on capital improvements committee. So it's just a matter of working on that. So hopefully, maybe by next budget year, we can get that resolved. I agree with you on the travel, that we do need a travel policy. I don't know if it would satisfy you to say, can we work on it this year? And you'd be comfortable with us, with approving the travel as is, with the understanding by next year, there would be a travel policy in place, just a suggestion. And that's my comments.
April,
So where does the sinking fund show up on the budget? Did that get added, for the sewer sinking fund?
I haven't seen it.
I don't think it was added, so we'll have to make sure it's added.
He talked with Leroy about it, and that they were going to talk to Sil about adding it in.
Candace has been talked about
And
still
I don't
added,
think it's done.
Okay.
so
I don't
before the
see it.
next budget, we'll need to have that.
All right. And if it's not, I'm just wondering, if Candace doesn't get around to putting it in
Then I'm
here.
gonna make an amendment at the final budget stage, so it's to adding. I mean,
Okay, because it's. All right, is that your only?
That's all, yes.
So my only comment I will make is, we just had a work meeting that was focused solely on the budget, and none of this came up in the budget in that work meeting, and it could have.
oh, wait a minute,
When we had our work meeting.
my comments all came in on it, except for the ones that I'm responding to
Mine.
Marcy on, but
Okay,
But capital improvements fix has already been discussed, capital improvement committee stipend was discussed. The sinking fund was discussed.
okay,
Yeah, and I apologize, Dean, mine didn't, there were reasons for that. I didn't have sufficient time to prepare, so.
okay, so are we going to adopt this proposed budget and set the public hearing, or what? We're done with everybody's comments. I assume we're ready to adopt the proposed budget and schedule the public hearing, which will take place on June 21st.
Do you want a motion to that?
Yes,
Motion to adopt, the proposed 24-25 fiscal year budget and have a public hearing on June 21st.
May I suggest a friendly amendment, just so the public kind of knows that the proposed tentative budget?
Okay. Second.
Just, I know that's getting semantics, but I think it helps the public know that that's not the
Except
final budget.
if it makes it clearer, okay, so a friendly motion, I amend my motion to say adoption of the tentative 2024-25 fiscal year budget with a June 21st public hearing.
Second,
I will do a roll call vote. April,
Aye.
Paul,
aye.
Jean, I, Misty,
Yes.
Marcy. Aye. Okay, next item is ordinance 2024-08, which is the pay for the treasurer. So as Marcy pointed out at our work meeting on Thursday, this proposed ordinance that I had, I used the same ordinance we did only 3 months ago to set up the pay for Leroy. And since that time, Utah Code Section 10.3.818, Section 4 has been eliminated by the state legislature. And so I went back and I printed off the new state code. Everyone has a copy of it in your folder. And I took the ordinance and what you guys have is my handwritten notes modifying this ordinance pursuant to the changes in the state code. And then here is the same changes showing the deletions and the additions. Now, since this is an ordinance and we have made changes, I am assuming I will need to continue this to next month and repost the ordinance on the Utah Public Access website. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so my only question for you guys is, because what I have indicated is that we are increasing the pay for the treasurer, and that in the past, the treasurer duties were only required a few hours a month. And what we will be doing starting July 1st is requiring more of our town treasurer. And so therefore, I have asked for the salary to be increased. Now, I put this salary figure in here, and I didn't know if you guys are okay with that. I think it should be more. for what we are going to be paying the treasurer.
Will this equate to a reduction of accounting services that we contract for?
I think so. That's the plan. The plan is that the treasurer will be doing some of the stuff that we currently pay him and Bert to not do. And that this should result in our contract with him and Bert being renegotiated and down. So are you guys okay with this amount? Do you think it should be more?
I'm okay with the amount. What I would like to see kind of along Marcy's lines, this is pretty much a contract employee, but I'd like to see us at least put the duties, and we don't need to do that ahead of time or before this, but eventually put the duties in a municipal code that reflects the duties of the town treasurer
They're
and
not,
the position.
they're not in there in the first place.
No,
In our town.
but we do have various officers in the town code.
Yes,
And-
but I meant the duties and what they are not laid out.
No, I know, but sit to add them in there so the public doesn't, as Lauren says, I have to go in and see, April to see them, on the municipal code provision. But that might have to wait until we hire an IT person.
We're still working out exactly what the duties are.
Right, I realize that. I'm just saying down the future, we should think and an idea that position will be listed on in a municipal code, you can just go there and look at what they do.
And I don't have a problem with the
The amount.
dollar figure here, no, not at all, I mean, I don't know how that number was arrived at, and so I think that is helpful. Pluck it out of thin air. I mean, I know that there's treasurers all over the place in other cities and towns, right, Utah, across the country. And I've seen other, places in Utah make job announcements for treasurer that were $400 a month, which is what we're currently paying. So I don't have a problem with the amount, I just wonder,
The duties are definitely way going to be different than what we paid.
that's
for.
great, and I wanna make sure, maybe this isn't enough, that's
That's
I
why
wanna make sure it's adequate. Okay. Maybe it needs to be increased.
And we'll probably find out during the year how much time is spent and what is needed.
Yeah, and
So this will probably be a trial run for a
it's
year.
gonna be a trial year.
Okay, so since we have to continue this next month because this is an ordinance that has now been modified with the language and according to well, legally, we have to repost the new ordinance and have it again at hearing next month. So I'll take a motion to table this tonight, or continue this to next month. The ordinance for the treasurer.
Motion to table ordinance 2024-8. The treasurer pay.
Two.
Next month.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye, aye.
Aye.
Now, this one, Keith, we're gonna need some input from you. This is approval of the contract to purchase the LDS church up the road and the accompanying lot and the authorization of the mayor to sign the contract. As you know, I sent the church contact information that, there's all the stuff we had done in the past to get ready to make the offer on the church. We have not done asbestos testing. And they replied, and I asked about getting them to do the asbestos testing, and they replied, not until you sign this contract.
Once you're under contract.
Once you're under contract, they'll know to do that.
Due diligence period starts, then you can, but it is a 30-day due diligence period, so we need to
Okay,
have that person lined up ready to rock and roll and report quickly.
yes. And so we talked to the guy who did the asbestos testing in the town hall this past year, when we needed asbestos testing, he's like, you call me, I can get out there, do it. I have not had an answer back yet on your question about, if he sends his samples out to the lab for testing and how long it takes for the report to get back. But I do know when he did the asbestos testing for the town hall, we had a report back in like 7 to 10 days. It was not long at all, very quick. So
My other.
what about the water shares?
Yeah, so, a point to be raised here, there is both a description, in the recitals and, a definition for property. Property includes,
This is at 1.15 for those of you who are following along, section
Page 2.
1.15 on page 2.
real property together with all building structures, improvements currently included thereon. And any and all equipment or easements, rights of way, appurtenances running with or pertaining thereto, including without limitation. Any rights to use the adjacent streets or alleyways and applicable water rights, energy and mineral rights. We've become familiar, aware that there are 3 shares in the irrigation company that is owned by the Elkins Church. And those shares are being used to water the exterior of the building. There's a distinction or difference between a water right and a share of stock in a water company. A water right is a right that is maintained by the Utah State Engineers Office in their water right registry. It's what we oftentimes refer to as an uncertificated water right or traditional water right. These, the church owns are shares in the irrigation company. The irrigation company owns the water right itself. And by owning a share, you have the right to use some of that water at applicable times and applicable places. And I had a little bit of concern, but it does say any appurtenances running with or pertaining thereto and applicable water rights. My only suggestion or concern was that we may want to look at an addendum that specifically calls out these shares. And I asked to get we got the share number from the irrigation company. So we can reference it by share number. If we want to, I don't know that it'd be an issue, but if I want to look at worst case scenarios and the LDS Church says, well, we sold you the land, but we didn't sell you any shares of stock in the irrigation company. Part here, if we do that, then we would fall into this definition of water rights. Here's just what I explained to you. So water rights right here, or an appurtenant water right is a traditional or uncertificated water right.
I think we should absolutely list the certificate numbers and those particular water shares.
The only drawback to that is that technically, if we don't accept as proposed or offered, then we are countering or adding new terms to it for which they could reject, and we think we're kind of under contract, subject to us just signing, but if we're signing but adding an addendum to it, it leaves us open for them to accept the addendum, and if they don't, then we're not under contract.
So we could lose the whole thing that we have worked out with it. It's too bad we did not know. Someone approached me just last week and said, by the way, there's these 3 shares. I was like, what for from the acceptance?
They didn't give us a specific, we asked them how quickly we get into asbestos testing, and they simply said,
Sign the contract.
signature or sign contract or feasibility period, you have all the inspection rights under this contract for your, under the feasibility period. So, he didn't act like it was immediate, but it wasn't something that we could
Can't drag out.
drag out.
And
Yeah,
then,
but if we don't need to sign it today, we can inquire as to whether this purchase price would include.
Yeah,
those three.
Mayor CC'd me on an email to this individual who's in the real estate department or representing the real estate department for the LDS church, and when she mentioned to them that we'd become aware of these, shares in the irrigation company, and he said, okay, thank you for the information, let me pass this on to our natural resources, department, and I'm thinking, what does that mean?
exactly, that's what we wondered, what is that?
I'm like, what does that mean? So, does that mean, I think we want some clarity, we want at least an oral or an email confirmation of this, those are included. I mean, they're being used, if you look at the map for the irrigation company where they're to be used, it's the church. But still, there's shares of stock in the irrigation.
But I think they're going to be considering a reasonable time for us to sign this. I've written to him, we're waiting back, he's talking to them. I just don't want to lose that place. I
Well,
don't
Mayor,
think
I think that if we respond back to them and say, the council, is not, hasn't authorized me to execute the agreement until we get clarity on the water shares.
See, this is what
So they don't think that we're like dragging their feet, and then we're waiting on them, and then they are not waiting on us.
And if we need to, we can hold a special meeting.
Well, that's what I wanted to say, was if this is what you guys want me to do, which is to write, not even authorize me to sign it, waiting for the clarification, but you want to get the clarification
No,
first, then I'll set a special meeting.
Yeah, in my opinion, the definition of property and whether these shares are included or not is really, it's close, but it's not perfect, and I would hate, and those irrigation shares do have some very real value to them. And
But at the same time, we can't get in to do the asbestos testing until we sign this. So it's, we're in this little place where we've got two things we need to
But that
do.
time clock doesn't start on the,
yeah,
until we sign the agreement,
so
so.
my suggestion is that, we ask them and tell them, or that maybe we make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign, subject to us getting email confirmation that the water shares are included, and that they would be willing to do an addendum after the fact. If they'll acknowledge that, and they know that that's all we're waiting for, we'll sign and this additional addendum, or maybe even just their, confirmation might be sufficient. I prefer it to be an addendum referencing those specific shares.
And I think that's the best way to go, and then if we get that, then you can sign up about an additional council meeting.
Yeah.
If they say no, or they come back and say it's gonna cost you extra amount, then we can make that decision.
That's the concern is, what are they gonna?
Yeah, I don't
If they
want
say,
to,
oh, no, oh, there's another, you're gonna have to pay us more, and you're like,
well, I do know that what was it they said, Crystal, that last year, the payment for 1 year in the share was, for all three shares was $61.
Yeah, it was $61 for all three.
for what?
For the
For
annual
their
dues.
dues.
Dues are one thing,
Okay.
the value,
Well, I
if
just
I were
wanted
to
to
try to go out and buy a share, what are people selling for? $4,000?
How much?
4 to 5.
Depends.
4 to 5?
Yeah, people, yeah, I've heard upwards of 10.
Depends.
The water district tries to buy them all and nobody's doing.
Yeah,
Well, that's
for a while.
That's about 1 2 years ago, like 4,000.
I get it, but the irrigation company is much more willing to sell to the town than they are to the conservancy district. Because conservancy district is trying to buy up all the shares and put the irrigation company out of business.
Okay, so what is it that we want to say? I'll write him an email telling him what the deal is, and that I can sign it once we get an addendum that says,
I'll let them make that motion.
I know. But what is the word that you wanted it to be?
That you're authorized to sign the PSA, purchase and sale agreement, once we have written confirmation that the irrigation shares are included in the definition of property. And we would like, and we prefer that there be an addendum stating that.
Do you have those certificate numbers?
Yes,
They're all on one certificate number 30, is that right?
yes.
Yeah, all three of them are on the motion.
I would put that in the motion.
I have a question before somebody makes a motion. As always. So I guess I'm just playing catch up, and maybe we're not there yet with this, but has an inspection been done on the church? Usually when you purchase property or a house or something, there's an inspection, and you accept it as is or repairs or.
Preliminarily, we had the contractor go through, and do a high level inspection, more for the purpose of getting a formal bid on how much roughly we could plan on in cost to retrofit it for the town's purposes. We have a 30-day window where we can have a more thorough inspection done, and it says that we can terminate this contract for any reason. We could say,
So,
we just decided we didn't want.
so if a contractor, so have we gotten those estimates? We have, and what are those?
That's why we were waiting for all that before we made a bid, because of an offer, because we wanted to see if we could afford it.
And so what are those estimates?
400,000.
400,000 for renovations.
I think that's in the budget, is that in the?
That's in,
Yeah, I thought.
yeah. And so, what about the bank? Have you talked to them since Thursday?
They indicated that they needed they would have a application form for a commercial application form that the town would need to fill out. So based on, unless there's any substantial changes in the financials that were provided previously with that application and a clear indication, they would prefer like a resolution to borrow that we could put on the next meeting's agenda. That would be sufficient for the loan committee to approve the loan. They've already indicated their willingness to give a loan for up to $1.8 million, which would be the purchase price plus the reno plus a little bit of contingency. Or, yeah, there's some loan costs.
So there are two irrigation companies in Virgin, aren't
It's
there?
the Virgin
Yes.
Canal.
The Virgin, okay.
You said they want the commercial loan application filled out and a resolution, passed by the town council for
Yeah,
what?
he said as long as the application is done, they put it for final loan approval for where they actually issue a loan commitment. But before closing, they would need to have a resolution tomorrow.
A resolution to borrow.
That resolution to borrow also indicates who's authorized to sign on behalf of the town. I mean, they're the council, whoever the council appoints.
Not fine.
If you want me to take a stab at the mention,
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody else can.
no, I just want to make sure. Before you make the motion, I want to make sure that what we are ultimately saying is, once we get this email confirmation that confirms what, the language that I'm going to say in this email to the LDS church, that, do we need to have need to have a special meeting to authorize me to sign that? Or is this thing going to authorize me to sign it once I get the confirmation? Okay,
Once you get the confirmation, if he is all right with what they sent,
then we can send it, then I can sign it, okay.
then you can sign it and If it isn't what we want to hear, then we have special discussion.
Okay, all right.
So I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the purchase and sale agreement for the LDS church on and the church and the lot across the street upon receiving written confirmation that the term property under section 1.5, 1.15 on page 2 includes the 3 water shares with the Virgin Canal Company, certificate number 30 to be memorialized in a subsequent addenda by all parties.
I second that. Finish my notes. Okay, I will do a, roll call vote. A little bit of funds being expended, yeah. Okay, Marcy?
Aye.
Misty? Yes. Jean, yes. Paul?
Aye.
And April? Aye. All right. Okay, moving on. Item 4. Authorization of the mayor to sign the regional water, the, addendum?
Yeah, addendum to the regional water supply.
Agreement, amendment to the revised regional water supply agreement, adding Virgin as a municipal customer. So we have last month, we voted to approve this conditional with a question that the Water Conservancy District has now answered. And the question was whether or not on this agreement on page 2, under subsection 5, number C and D talk about the monthly water availability assessment fee that would have been due under the previous water supply agreement with Virgin. We wanted to know whether or not they would waive that fee, and we were waiting for the answer, and we now have the response from Zach Lindstrom of the Water Conservancy District saying he does not have authority to do such a thing, but it has to go to is it the board or was it the advisory council?
It's the board.
It's gotta be the board. And that he said, if we execute the amendment, the district plans to inform the existing municipal customers that it does not intend to seek the reimbursement obligation and provide them an opportunity to object. And that's how he plans to proceed.
So if you remember, one reasoning, this latecomer fee that we're asking them to waive, their general counsel, when we made the presentation to the Conservancy District Board to allow the town to join, she made a very interesting and insightful comment. She's been working on this agreement. She was the one who drafted the major overhaul and restatement in 2019 and working on this, the current third change to it, that this fee is actually owed to the other municipal customers, not to the Conservancy District. But that she also indicated that the district that there were a couple of other municipal customers who came late. Not as late as we are. I mean, but like a year or two later, and they never collected it from them either. They, in the regional water supply agreement, did not even call out any sort of methodology on how that fee, once collected by the district, would be disseminated out to the other municipal customers. And, you know, she had told us privately in meetings with Zach Redstrom, the general manager present, they had indicated that they would be in support of it being waived, but Zach has kind of softened just a little bit in the sense that they're not in support of it, but they also don't want to say we get to make the call. And that our board does, but we are going to, this is how we're going to do it. We're gonna inform the other municipal customers that we're not going to seek it. And we're gonna ask, I stand corrected, it's not the board, it is the administrative,
Advisory council,
yeah.
yeah, 'cause that's where all the municipal customers.
Because that, the municipal customers, the mayors mostly all sit on that board. So that's where they're going to advise them. And unless there's any sort of objection or motion opposing that, then that will be their indication that they're not.
And as I said last month and the month before, that when I did the presentation to the advisory council and specifically requested a waiver of this fee and told them what we would do with the money, they, not a single one had an objection. They were all like, they had no problem with it. But Zach's point is Zach does not have the authority himself to make such a decision. It has to come from him.
Because it's the other city's money, it's not the district's.
It's not his. So, based on this, do I have authority to fund this? Go ahead.
I'm ready to make a motion, and I'll make sure everybody else has got their questions answered before I do.
So how did they amend this? I'm not exactly sure, just this
A
letter?
letter? They did not.
Oh, so this is the same,
Yes.
This is
We're
exactly
voting?
the same
Okay.
thing that we have.
and all he's doing is we attached the letter to let us know that they were not going to basically tell us that this.
We were going to inform the other municipal customers of the
But they're, they.
the advisory committee level, which is the mayors from other municipalities, that they weren't going to collect it unless any of them had any objection on the way the motion.
I understand that.
Okay, and the amount that we would be paying is so minimal compared to the amount of income that the water district is going to get. That, I can't imagine anyone's going to object. Okay, Paul.
I authorize, the mayor to sign the revised regional water support agreement with the Washington County Water Conservancy District and Virgin as a municipal customer.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Second. I'm going to take a roll call vote on this since this is a contract. Marcy?
No,
Misty? Yes. Jean, yes. Paul?
Yes.
April?
Yes.
Okay, and I see that this requires me, Jean, and Heath to all sign, so we'll do this tonight. Okay. Yeah, so that's, all right, next one, authorization for mayor to sign, this is item 5, authorization for mayor to sign the loan documents with the Division of Water Quality. And this is the loan of $60,000 from the Division of Water Quality to go toward the groundwater protection study that is going to cost a total of $120,000. And we're paying 20, the Water Conservancy District is contributing 40, and the Division of Water Quality is loaning us $60,000 with the expectation that once the water protection study is done, which will take a year, that then they will decide whether or not it continues as a loan or if they will turn it into a grant. And so the Sunrise Engineering is doing the groundwater protection study, and we had our kickoff meeting on May 1st, and they have been working diligently to get things set up. And so, we need to sign this and move on with, assuming that you guys are in agreement, we will sign this and get this on to the Division of Water Quality so that they can make steps to start releasing the money. Although this is the way they're going to do this is the way they did with the bonds that we're getting for the, water concerns, for the water tank on the Dalton Wash, that we will have to prepare a check with the invoices, send them a copy, they then will send us the money to pay the check, and then we can sign the check and they will mail it. That's how this is gonna work. They're not just sending us $60,000 and putting it in our bank. Because we'll waste it. Any questions?
So if they're only sending us the money that's like once we invoice them, how exactly is the loan repayment plan work then? Are they pretending like they're loaning us 60,000 right
They're
now?
calling it a
They're
loan.
calling it a loan. That's what we're talking
On the
about.
loan
But
document,
they hold on to the money, you know?
they indicate in the loan document that it could be converted from a loan to a grant.
Right.
If one of two things happen, if they determine in their sole discretion, after hearing the presentation, on the groundwater study and its recommendations, they can forgive it, or if the study results in the town increasing the lot size to more than 1 acre, or larger than 1 acre by 2027, then that means they will really like that study and it's forgiven legally. So there's an objective one and then there's a subjective way to have this converted from a loan to a grant.
Whoever gives that presentation better do a hell of
Yeah,
a job.
so
I'll do a great job.
we need someone to put on their pinky ring, their plaid jacket, come in and just sell it to death.
Oh, sunrise. So, okay. Any other questions?
No, we talked about this pretty
Pretty
thoroughly.
hard, yeah, but it's working in version.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I make a motion to authorize mayor to sign the loan documents with DWQ.
Second,
okay. Again, another contract, we will do a roll call vote, start table. Paul,
aye.
Jean, yes, Misty, yes, Marcy,
Aye.
okay. All right, next item is by the way, Crystal, I'm gonna have to, it shows that I have had my signature notarized, so we'll do that fine. Resolution, item number 6, resolution R 2024-H, appointing Randy Miller as emergency manager for Virgin. And we talked about this at the work meeting. And so I prepared a resolution.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution R 2024-H, appointing Randy Giller as emergency manager to the town of Virgin.
I'll second
Is this one we could do all in favor, Keith?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
April, that was Marcy?
I said no.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was you or April.
It
Okay.
was me.
Okay, next, a resolution R 2024-K, amending the personnel manual to include section 5.16. Pursuant to that as set forth in this resolution, and Paul, you had some issues with it, so I'm gonna let you talk about it.
Yes, I don't think the provision reflects one need from what the also was of the code section, reflects accurately what we can do with respect to this personnel manual. It only lists one of the reasons we can deny the person's request, but doesn't list the other 3 or 4 reasons listed in statute. One of my other concerns, I think this needs more work. One of the other concerns that I have is that the way this provision reads is they make the request to the supervisor, the supervisor grants or denies it. When it's denied, then the individual can go to court and proceed with the court action to get the person's request granted or denial overturned, and that has potential carrying attorney's fees. So I think if it's a lower level supervisor that are making a decision for the town that could result in litigation that could easily be avoided depending on how we structure the procedure on how we handle these claims, which the statute gives us authority to create that procedure. So I think this needs a lot more work, and I would,
You also mentioned to me something about the time frame.
oh, yeah, there's also an issue with the timeframe.
So 180-day statute of limitations.
Yeah, well, the other one that I was thinking of when I looked at it, it gives the employee, once the employee submits the request, it gives the town 2 days, and under the statute, it's 5 days, up to 5 days, and it's the 2 days is related to the employee's request. And so I think it needs a lot more work, so I would make a motion that we table this item until we've had a chance to revise and propose changes to the manual.
And I second that. Is there any more discussion, or can we go ahead and vote on that?
It sounds like he has a lot of the same concerns,
Yes.
yeah.
The house
Well, I
goes
haven't
and scratch
studied
it
it
again,
enough.
and, yeah, just.
All right, all in favor? Okay, all right, so the next item, before we discuss the square footage ordinance, we have 2 items for discussion. There was a square footage ordinance and the increase in the resort tax by 0.5%. So initially, I had this with the discussion of the resort tax first and the square footage ordinance last, and then I split them. But if we discuss the increase in the resort tax by 0.5% first, how many minutes do you didn't have a whole lot to talk about.
No,
I was gonna have you do this discussion on resort tax.
it can wait because I need to do some more looking, because I want to try to figure out what the provisions are. I assume we're collecting, from what I can tell, from the website, that we're collecting a 1%
Correct.
resort tax.
Yeah.
And I think I found the resolution, and what was confusing with the resolution I looked at, it was talking about, the transient room tax. But when I read the minutes, it was clear that it was related to the resort tax, so.
And the state's franchise board assumes we are paying the resort tax.
Yes, but why did we go to 1% and not the 1.1% that's authorized?
1.5%.
Well, 1.1, and then you can do an additional 5 to get it to 1.6. But so the 1.1, I think
I think it moved between when it was adopted.
and I never
At
had,
1 to 1.1.
and it probably did, I didn't get a chance to look at the prior history.
Okay.
So, you know, to change that would just do a new ordinance for the 1.1. Then the other question I have on it, to do the 0.5, you have to go to election unless there's a certain condition, and that is that prior to 1996, you had a business license that you were charging businesses or a tax.
So
It
we-
falls on businesses. I don't know if we fall under that exception or not.
So we need to do some more
So we
research.
need to do some more research, because if we do, then we can just do that by ordinance. If we don't fall under that exception, then we have to request an election.
I will tell you this, Paul, we had in our general town ordinances, a business license clear provision and process well prior to 96, whether we were collecting it or not, I couldn't.
But, and that may be,
But if I look at if I look at the ordinance date, it predates 96.
okay, so then we may be able to do everything by ordinance.
I want to say 81.
You want to say what?
I want to say 81.
81.
If you look at the date in those general ordinances in the business licensing chapter, I think it's 1981.
So here's what I would propose is let me go and I'll use Pittsburgh term, never around the town hall and see if I can find the information on the business stuff. And at the minimum, we should, my proposal is we at least go for the 1.1. Based on the election cycles, we're not gonna get with the municipal election until following year, so that's not as much of a rush. But if we can do both together on the same ordinance, then let's do it. And I'll grab something up and get it to you before the June meeting.
Okay, so,
And that's already to me, yeah.
so that leaves just the discussion of the square footage ordinance, which everybody else here is familiar with. Sorry to make you wait to the very end, but if you're fine. Okay, so what I have on the agenda was what I initially had planned to do was when we had our work meeting on Thursday, and I put on there for the, that we were going to discuss the square footage ordinance. And the reason I had put this on the agenda, because Misty asked me, why are we having this on the agenda when we haven't got a recommendation yet from planning commission? And my reason that I put it on was I wanted us, we're getting down to the wire on this. And I'm getting really worried about us, by the time we get it from planning commission, we do not have enough time to review it, make changes, and if we need to send it back to planning commission for another public hearing, there's not enough time. So I was getting worried about that, and so I put this on for us to discuss, and what my plan was for us to, for town council to look at this, because none of us have we have not received this ordinance for us to look at. And so we have not reviewed this until now, and, my plan was, we would all review this, and if you had suggestions, send it to the planning commission so that they would know what the town council would like to see when they do their public hearing. And so that we could get it back with our proposed suggestion, our proposed changes, and then we could vote and we wouldn't have to maybe send it back for another public hearing. My whole point was to try to avoid another public hearing, a third one, essentially. However, then yesterday, when I found out that the public hearing that was scheduled for, that was planned for June the 5th was not gonna take place on June the 5th, but instead was being pushed another week, I got really upset and said, wait a minute, we're getting so far along in the process, and it still hasn't come to town council for us to review. So I changed the agenda based on what I found out yesterday. I changed the agenda to say possible motion and vote if we think that is the way we want to go, pursuant to 10(9)A(3)(02) subsection 4. So, and 10(9)A(3)(02) subsection 4, if you guys pulled it up, is a code section that says that failure to have it timely, what was it? You and I talked about it earlier, Paul, I can't remember the exact phraseology for that code section. There was no timely recommendation.
Timely on it,
We could have sent
You
that.
could- you could deem that as a recommendation for denial.
And so what I want to know is, what I want us to discuss is if we want to go that route, because we're getting so close, we have until July 29th. That is the 180 days that we have to make a decision on this. And I was hoping to be able to not wait until the absolute last day to vote on this, but that we would be able to vote on this. I was really hoping that this could have been done by now, and we would be voting on it this next month, June. But now it looks like it will be July 16th is our town council meeting in July, so it looks like we're gonna be at that point. Is the earliest we would be able to vote, and then, like I said, if we've got changes, we're in trouble. So, Paul and I had some discussions today about, this ordinance and how we would like to proceed, because if we say, yes, we want to, proceed under 10(9)A(3)(02) subsection 4, then what happens is town council then assumes the rest of the process for, Sheridan District. And you essentially take it away from planning commission and town council takes it from there. So,
Let me ask you a question.
yes,
So if, help me understand what you're thinking, if there was to be some sort of vote to take it away from the planning commission for failure to act timely in a reasonable time, is the council prepared to hold a public hearing? Yeah, because I would not want an action, I would adamantly recommend that we not take any action to approve this without a public hearing.
absolutely. That was,
I mean, it's required.
that was
it's a
absolutely an
process.
expectation.
Any amendment to your land use ordinances has to have a public.
Well, they've already had one public hearing, May 1st, and they had the second public hearing, and they suggested some changes. And so, Crystal had recommended that based on the changes that they were making, that they needed to have another public hearing. And so it was set for, June 5th, and now it's been moved to June 12th. And so, I'm just concerned because there's a lot in here for us to review. And just a minute, Bronwyn, there's a lot of stuff in here for us to review. And, I'm just not sure that there's enough time. So that was one idea. Paul, you look like you want to say something.
No, my preference would be for the planning commission to wrap everything up and transmit the recommendation to us by the June meeting.
So Paul and I discussed this today as one option, which is we absolutely have to have it to us for our June meeting. There is no ability to put this off anymore. It has to take place, it has to have those, we have to have it by the June meeting.
Or,
So you have-
or it expires.
Well, no, we have until July 29th. But if we if we review this and say, oh my gosh, no, we want to change this, it's time to go back to planning commission for another public hearing.
They failed to act by the June meeting, that gives us 1 month to then act on.
Right, so that's what we talked about, was if by the June meeting, they have not voted on this, we will have to proceed under 10(9)(a), 3024, we'll have no option to proceed.
I think we should let the planning commission continue to work on it. They've already put a lot of effort into it. And it seemed like they were making some progress and they had some positive discussions. Maybe not everybody was on the same page, but it seemed like they're willing to work together and figure out the issues.
So, did you have any time, did any of you review this?
I looked at it, I have to say that I think it's just a little bit too complicated.
I agree.
I think we really need to drill down and determine exactly what the problem is we're trying to solve. It almost seems like it's just this big jumble that isn't really, I don't know if it's really solving the problems that we think we have. Is the problem short-term rentals, designed to function as mini motels? Is the problem that all over town we have, problems with the size of our structures? And, I mean, are we worried about the environmental impacts of potential septic system overload? I mean, I'm just concerned that with these ordinances limiting the size of the buildings or residences in all zones, we may be creating other problems with some unintended consequences. I mean, we already limit the resident to 10-person occupancy and 5 bedrooms.
But this isn't about short-term rentals.
I know,
Okay. Okay,
but we can, maybe we could be better taking the court compliance, with fines and increased vigilance. I mean, I had some discussions with people, I know most of the people I talked to are not really on board with us restricting the size limits like is in this ordinance.
okay, so when Paul and I were talking today, we went back and we pulled the initial temporary land use ordinance that we had passed February first, put it in everybody's
I
packet.
saw that, and
We were comparing what we have in the temporary land use regulation. So if you look at this, everybody has a copy in your file. What we sent from February first, and if you go to page 5, it has on page 5 what we asked the planning commission to look at. And it's got, it's 1A, B, and C. And that's all this was. And now, looking at this, as April said, how complicated it is, Paul had an idea of a potential way to proceed, so why don't you explain that, what your thought was with regard to this temporary land use ordinance?
If I recall correctly, I don't remember.
Oh, we talked about it 3 hours ago.
One option is, they've done a lot of work with this, the way, the complication you're talking about. And I think what you said is, there's so much there, instead of confusing all the different issues, because you got issues with short-term rental in it, you've got, lot size, and it's not just dealing with this building square foot, is maybe for them to bifurcate those two ordinances, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's fine.
So I bifurcate this, still work on this one and make the changes, but just come back with a recommendation on our temporary ordinance with respect to the size of the building. And give us a recommendation just on the respect to the size of the building. And then bring back all the good work that they've done already on this. And then not rush to do it in 1 month. And we can consider that separately from just the size of the building. That would be mine, because then you focus it down to what we really asked, and then we can address the recommendations of the planning commission on the other aspects unrelated to the size.
So basically, send it back and, basically say, send us something that is addressing these 3 things. That was in our temporary land use ordinance, address it because, as I had said at the time, you could take our temporary land use ordinance here and modify it, and we could have had this done in 6 weeks. And now here we are 4 months later, and we still don't have an ordinance, and now it's much more complicated when this really was quite simple and could have been done in six weeks.
I have a question for you. When the temporary ordinance was adopted, you had referenced an administrative rule that I believe you said
About
the
this.
county had used about the 1,500 gallon septic tank. And I have gone through the administrative rule, chapter 317, there's like 10 chapters and there's a lot of information and I'm not an expert on wastewater. And I could not find anything about 1,500 gallons.
The 3,500 square feet was a county thing. This
Oh,
was,
okay.
the 1,500 gallons was for an administrative rule from the state. The
Right, and that's
state-
where I was looking,
Okay.
and I could not,
Fine.
so if you recall or you
Yeah, I
have that
remember.
written down, maybe you could send that to the planning commission, that might help them.
was that from section 3? Yeah.
317. 317-4.
317.
317-4.
Because I did look at some house plans today, just ordinary houses being built, and I looked at what they got from the, Southwest Utah Public Health, everyone, 1,500 gallons septic tank, 1,500 gallons septic tank, 1,500 gallons septic tank.
Yeah,
That's the standard. I'll find a rule. There is a rule.
I just, I would love to find it too.
However, so, but that's not, but. What? I'm not gonna try to find the rule before we decide what we're gonna do about sending this to the
No.
planning commission. Yes, Misty.
I feel like we are still in the same situation that we were when I voted no on this, is that we're jumping a gun. I also feel like you're skating with our property rights of our residents. We've gone from focusing on short-term rentals and removing them and keeping them from happening to now we're, I feel like we're
penalizing our residents by telling them they can't build a big home. If I have a lot of money and I want to build a large home on my property, I should be allowed to do that. And I should be able to have my garages as large as I want them to be. If it's an RV garage, it's my property. I feel like there's a property rights that we're infringing on by doing this.
Okay,
And I want that. I completely do not support this.
okay, that's fine. We mentioned that, we made that clear in our meeting in February.
Yeah, that's why my silence is because of that, and so I need to make sure it's no, I feel like we're crossing the line.
Okay.
And that would be, considering setbacks, I mean, they would have.
No, the sizes of your home, and all of the setbacks are in place for a reason. It's for the sizes of the homes that I have a problem with, not the setbacks.
However,
What about the height?
The height, we already have a height set
No,
at 25 feet.
I think what she means is why would you be willing to limit the house?
Because there's a compromise that you have to reach, where you have to find it. And this is not finding it. This is a reaction to stop something that we want stopped, which is understandable. However, I don't feel like we should do that at the expense of our residents. It should be at the expense of people who want to do short-term rentals.
From my understanding, there are places in the United States, including Utah, where size of homes are restricted, and so it's not illegal.
But we're a virgin. I'm not saying it's illegal. I said that we're skating a line.
I'd like to see some data analysis. Is it true that smaller homes use less water? Is it true that smaller homes don't block view sheds? And do smaller homes not pollute the night sky? Those are things to consider. Where is there proof of that? Okay, I think those are things.
well, that's why I said, we need to determine exactly what the problem is we're trying to solve.
We know what the
But we know what the problem is, and we knew what the problem was on February 1st when we did this.
Well, I think when this came up, we were talking about a short-term rental or a short-term overlay zone. And having those large homes in there because people were planning to use, I don't know how many occupants. You know, and so then they have 11-bedroom homes. And that was kind of the point of it. Like, no, we don't want these mega motel short-term rentals in our neighborhoods. And then we weren't really allowed to say, oh, you are the only ones that can't reduce this tax, you know, or limit on the size of your building. But so then we went into all the residential zones and, you know, put limits on that.
So if this was modified to be a restriction on short-term rentals only.
An overlay zone,
Yeah, what's your thought?
I think we should restrict the size of them, so that they are not mini motels. I don't think that they should be, have 11 bedrooms and 22, 30 occupants.
We permit based on size. We should permit based on size. So if I come in and I say, here's my 5,000 square foot home, and we have a limit of 3,500 square feet for anyone who wants to have a short-term rental, that is where you limit it. Because I think we shouldn't limit our people that are not doing that. And I do understand the flip side. I understand where it is coming from, that people build these homes and do it anyway. I completely understand that. But you can't base it on the fear tactic that somebody's going to do that. And penalize the person who wants to build a home for their home to live in and
It's not
retire.
It's not just the individual homes either, though. People want to build a garage or.
Yes, the RV garage
This
is when
didn't
the
stop
items
them
in
from
there.
there, this doesn't stop.
It limits the size.
It limits the size of
Right.
living area,
Living area.
living
But
area.
it also has a footprint too.
Yeah,
Oh, that's this, I'm talking about the one we.
Okay, good.
February.
I
I'm not
still
talking
think
about-
that this
We're not
needs to
talking-
be
we're
solely
talking about-
limited to short-term rental, not to homes that are built in as a home.
Okay, well, that's why I asked, if it was limited, if this was revised to say short-term rentals only, what would be the reaction of the town council?
Well, my understanding is that it was discriminatory if we limit it to short-term rental over zone.
Well, that's why I was asking, what if you're, what would be really much?
I would be fine with it, but I don't know, I think we've got some kind of
Paul?
discussion that we couldn't do that, or that would be discriminatory.
I think you need to look at the size of homes. I don't know what that square footage is. I was hoping we'd kind of get something from the planning commission. But I think that is a limitation that should apply for the zones, not just short-term rentals. You can have a house that's incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood just because it covers the whole lot itself. Is that what we want the town of Virgin to look like? So that's what the planning commission needs to kind of look at, is say, what's the acceptable size of a house square footage wise in the town of Virgin? And I understand the property rights argument, but we do limit height. And we limited certain stories, so, is it acceptable without a limitation of square footage because we limit the heights? Or do we, or is there a basis where we needed to limit the square footage in the houses because one, they do create more light because you've got more area that you have to light up easily, just they create, potentially more use on the septic system, depending on how many bedrooms you have and how many people live in there. You want to make sure that's sized correctly. You do have increased use of water. So I'm not one to say just for short-term rentals,
Okay,
but
so
I
there's,
want some type of objective standard upon which to base that.
okay, because there's a parcel here in town that recently came to our, attention that it's 0.78 of an acre. And they have 3 structures on the property. There's a house, a casita, and a huge garage. And it is 7,000, well, basically 7,200 square feet is what is taken up, and you should see what this looks like. And then they've got all this concrete that's poured, all this driveway, and you just look at this, what has happened to this parcel, and it is just covered in this structures and driveways and it is not attractive.
Well, that particular place, I think, is running into.
Yes, and we'll take care of that. That's a different issue.
So how about looking at setbacks? That's part of
No.
this.
I don't think so. So what I want to know is how are we going to proceed? Because we only have 2 months left. And we have limited time.
I think the way Paul described it is they could look at just as our original emergency meeting with 3 items.
The 3 items.
Maybe work on the other things. I mean, that could be the approach we take, because I know the planning and zoning spent a lot of time. And it made a lot of effort, and there is some good things in this, proposal, but, I've been getting calls and letters from people that there's some pushback on it, you know,
So I have-
Take a look at that as the bigger picture that is, kind of.
And that's why Paul was saying, address this right now, this later. I have a question for Keith on C. It says homes require more than a single preliminary water connection. And I'm wondering, what about the size of the connection? You know, there's various sizes. Is that anything that should be considered?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering, I
think I heard once that a 3/4 inch water connection can, or a 1 inch water connection could have as much water through as 2 3/4 inch. Which is not, that is, maybe April. might be-
I'm not sure, I've never heard that before, but I mean, a typical house is a 3/4 inch.
Yeah, most houses are 3/4 inch, if someone needs an 1 inch or a 1.5 inch, that's much more of a commercial application, you don't see that.
that's why I wondered, if we concluded the
Yes,
size
and
in
to
this,
answer your
that
question,
helped.
yes, it could be more than a single water connection or water connections larger than 1 inch,
So, okay,
so,
so 3/4 inch.
or larger than 3/4. I think you may want to ask your town engineer. They would understand that better than me.
So. If we are to ask planning commission to address this only, which is what we originally sent them to address. I'm assuming based on the amount of time that has passed, and we talked here and there about this, that we want to increase the amount of living area from the 3,500 square feet to something larger, or what?
I want to see what the planning commission recommends.
Okay, now I have a question for Keith on this, and it has escaped my mind. Let's see if I can back to it. In the meantime, yeah.
I was gonna say, do you want to let Bronwyn respond?
Yeah.
or
Yes.
give us a-
Yes, and then I have,
recommendation?
okay, and then I have something that I still need to talk about. So yes, Brian.
Well, I'm glad that we remembered that we have a June meeting for town council, because, and we had that chance to vote on it too, because at first that wasn't clear. The one that we said, anyway, I'm okay with any of the options you talked about as far as having us address, that specific narrow ordinance, that's easy.
That's
So I'm okay with anything like that, I appreciate, I think it would be a mistake, especially where, let me just say that. I'm okay with any of these options except for you guys trying to, take it away, because for many reasons that, anyway, just, yeah, tell us what you need, tell us clearly, we'll be happy to help.
And so, because my whole point was, the reason, as I said, that when I introduced this topic, the whole reason I put this on the agenda is I was so worried about time, that I wanted the town council to let you guys know now what we're.
Well, I will say, in our defense, we have talked about it ad nauseum. As far as making sure you had it in June, so we're not behind on anything we committed to. I'm
Okay,
sorry you got nervous, but we are right on schedule for what we committed.
okay, so the other thing I wanted to bring up has to do with, and this is something I haven't talked to you about. Well, you know what, before I go on to bring this other, do you have anything you want? It relates to this.
Correct.
It relates to this. But before I move on to that, did you have anything you want to say about what we talked about, so? Okay,
Well, okay, yeah, I will say this, seems to me like a temporary ordinance could be taken, and a few words changed, and modified on those 3 points, if there needs to be modifications to it, and it can be back in front of you. It does appear like maybe the planning commission missed the assignment a little bit. And I know they worked on it, but it's a matter of a little bit of focus. But one other point that I wanted to make, that is, if we're gonna change, I would like to see the terms in A, B, and C on the last page changed to dwellings.
times to the homes.
Because homes, dwelling is the defined term.
So I think I can understand how the planning and zoning got,
Sidetracked.
so maybe sidetracked, you could say, but because if you look at a 3,500 square foot dwelling, and it's on a half acre as compared to 1 acre, or, you know, I mean, it
Yeah,
just starts
so-
getting, and then you start trying to formulate all these, you know, rules and sizes and fit every single. instance, and
They're
it-
thinking
and it-
outside the box.
It gets
which is
really,
good.
yeah, I know, and
But maybe they overthought it too.
well, I mean, it's hard to just say, we can only have this size
Sure.
home, because we have a lot of different conditions and situations, so.
I like where they're going with that concept,
Right,
and that's why I don't want to derail it until I see the final product. But I think it may take a little longer than what we need to resolve this time. Because I think that gets to where I was stumbling at, was the compatibility in the neighborhood. And the way we do that objectively, I guess, is with the size of the lots and the area. So I think that's what they were trying to do.
I think so too, and then, you know, you also have these neighborhoods that are a little different, like Rio de Zion, for example, they're mostly half-acre lots. And they have their kind of HOAs and their requirements that seem to exist for that subdivision. You know, and so you can't maybe carte blanche say that that works for the whole town with different neighborhood types. And I mean, then you start getting really down in the weeds with a lot of these specifics and try to address everything. I mean, it's difficult. I think they brought up a lot of excellent points, and so we need to just let them keep going, and I understand the urgency too. Maybe we could simplify it, and then, like you say, work on it.
Okay, so one of the things, this other thing that you asked me if this was on the agenda, and I said it's actually related to this. I was talking to someone this morning about, this ordinance, and this actually had been kind of in my mind over the weekend. And I've been thinking about the Rio neighborhood subdivision and how that subdivision is unlike any other subdivision in town. Completely different. And, it is the only subdivision in town where there are lots less than an acre and there's open space. And the whole reason they allowed the lots less than an acre was because the developer at the time set aside some open space. No other subdivision in town has open space and allows for smaller lots. They're all 1 acre or more with 0 open space. So, Rio is a unicorn, if you want to call it that, in Virgin. And so I called someone today who was on town council back when, the subdivision was approved and platted and recorded. And they said that Rio Design was actually a planned unit development. It was a PUD, and that we had PUDs in the town code at the time. And that they were specifically zoned rural residential, specifically so that they would qualify to develop every one of those parcels as a 1 acre lot or more. And that is why they got rural residential, even though they have smaller lots. And therefore, every lot in there is to be treated as a 1 acre lot or more. And I went back and you pulled, because what I had been thinking was, because things are different in Rio, was there a legal way to say that whatever we do here cannot apply to the Rio neighborhood because of the way it's set up? And so I was advised that it was set up as public, PUD. They got the zoning on purpose so that they could all act as 1 acre lots. And I pulled the plat maps off the county map, although they're so small, you have to have a magnifying glass to read it. That's why everybody has a magnifying glass at your desk. I find nothing on here to talk about it. I need to pull our land use code for 2005. That's when they were doing this, even though this was recorded in 2007. I don't find anything on here that talks about, planned unit development, and I don't know if that actually would have been on a plat map. Monica has sat here today and gone through every page in the box that has to do with Rio design, and she cannot find anything regarding this, so now it's down to looking for minutes of the meetings when they did this, but I wanted to find a way. She just said this is the zone change was its exception to make it. That we don't, where I wanted to potentially make them exempt from this, she's like, this is the exemption. They're ready, making it rural residential is the exemption. And I was like, oh, I did not know that. And I was like, that's why we need people around here with institutional knowledge that can tell us what happened in 2006. Because I did not know that. I knew that they had, let them have the smaller lots in return for the open space, but I did not, it never crossed my mind to even wonder why it had the rural residential zone. And I was like, oh, that explains so much.
We do not have copies of our historical ordinances.
I will find them, I'm sure we did.
Okay, because, I started with the, town in 2008, late 2008.
And this was already done.
It was done. But, clearly, I recall, and it was on the books for quite a while, we had some sort of overlay zone that is the equivalent of what most people refer to as a planned unit development, some sort of PUD zone. And that is how this was done. You have to have an underlying zoning, which the underlying zoning for Rio Design is rural residential, which is 1 acre lots. However, by getting the planned unit development overlay zoning, they were allowed to cluster or make smaller lots in exchange for reserving open space,
Correct.
giving you what's called a blended density of 1 acre.
I understand all of that.
All that, and
I understand.
that's how it got its thing. It was zoned rural residential with a PUD overlay, or whatever the terminology or acronym was, for a zone that I don't believe we still have on our list.
I agree. I don't think that zone is on our books anymore. And in fact, we have an old zoning map that Crystal pulled up the other day that actually has all these hash marks across Rio, and it's what's said restricted development overlay zone. I was like, when did we ever have that?
So those are the parcels now, aren't they? I mean, those are being built on. What, aren't those parcels that say no building or?
Oh, no, that's just a section that says not buildable area, but that's part of the lot. That's part of the parcel.
Right. Oh, it's part of a parcel.
Yeah, that's part of like here where if you're looking at the top where you see 13 and 14, that's part of 13 and 14. It goes all the way down. So, anyway, I was trying to understand how we could allow or exempt them
By the
from.
way, if you were to read our zoning ordinances and have different zone districts, there is no clarity whether or not the town would consider blended densities. If someone came in with a proposal where they want to say, we're gonna set aside X amount of open space, restricted, deed restricted, meaning restricted on the plat or restricted by a separate deed or restrictive covenant recorded against a certain portion of the subdivision, however it's restricted. And in exchange for that, you're gonna allow us to have smaller lot sizes so that the overall density still equates to 1. For the overall 1 acre, for the overall part per lot, for the overall parcel. And so that's why you see some of the other subdivisions that came in since then, and they're just 1 acre.
1 acre lots, yeah.
And the idea being is, in my opinion, that's not the greatest urban planning that we can or should do. Because when you have bigger lots, which I know that, the health department may say is a good thing from a septic or a percolation standpoint. You put a home, and we're talking about restricting homes to a certain size. So you've got a home footprint that looks like this, and you got a lot footprint that looks like this. So what happens with all that open area out there, when the cars get parked out in the back corner? Or the weeds start to grow up over here or there or whatever, and it probably doesn't look as good ultimately possible in that sense as a more planned unit development where there's clustering. You have homes that will match lot sizes, and then you've got this preserved open space for everyone to benefit. So a lot of cities do.
But my issue is if they can indeed treat each lot, no matter its size, as a 1 acre lot because they have the rural residential zone.
When you say treat it, from whose perspective?
From the-
From the health department's perspective?
No, from the perspective of what, if, we were just talking about, one of the things that April and Paul kind of liked was graduated sizes of houses depending on the size of your lot. If you got more space, more house, you could build a bigger the lot. What I'm asking is, since they have rural residential zone, and the argument that I was told today is that they get to be treated like 1 acre lots, that they would be able to build a bigger house on a half acre lot than they normally would, because they are zoned rural residential, they're in this PUD. Can they take a 3/4 acre lot and
From a groundwater protection standpoint, if you can have 100 homes on 1 acre lots, or you can have 100 homes on half acre lots with the rest preserved, there's still 100 homes in the same amount of acreage. If you're thinking about that from a kind of a regional or an area standpoint, still affects the groundwater the same way.
okay. So ultimately, they would be able to, it sounds like, what I was told today was that because of the way Rio was done, that they could take each lot and treat it like as if it was an acre and build the size home that would be allowed for an acre.
No.
No? Why?
Because it's an average, right? I mean, my understanding was when Rio was platted, they had smaller lots and larger lots, and the larger lots made up for the smaller lots, and they spread it all down.
Some of that and some of the open space, it's a combination of both.
Mhm.
But you're asking me, if we put a size together and says higher than 3,500 square feet of livable area. And
So you go with 4, let's just say.
okay, 4 or 5, whatever it may be, and you're saying we're basing that off of 1 acre. Can we make the smaller lots go smaller?
No, I'm asking if the smaller lots could go ahead and have the 4,000 square foot house, even in Rio only in Rio, because they're the only subdivision in the entire town that is this way. No,
Now I understand what you're
Okay.
asking.
would each lot there, no matter its size, be able to put a 4,000 square foot? If that was the number we came up with,
If
or 5,000 we
the
came up with.
ordinance that gets passed is a lot like a temporary ordinance, it just says all dwellings or all homes in residential zones,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay. But if we come back later, what they're talking about is saying,
Scale,
and do a graduated scale, then what?
no.
They have to apply the graduated scale? Oh, okay. What do you think, Paul? I'm like, oh, there,
Says 0.
okay. Okay, so as long as we leave it the way the temporary is, doesn't matter, the size of the lot. Okay. So what are we gonna do? I know what Misty wants.
I don't mind letting it go back to planning and zoning, we'll let them do their thing.
But if we send it back to planning.
I do care, because even if I vote no, then it passes, there needs to be a stake in the game.
So what my question is, are we going to ask them to address this?
I think I heard Ron say is,
Huh? No, I'm switching, no, I'm switching. I think that they should address that one, that's all.
Okay.
I really don't want to see that.
I heard Ron say I could give her, that's all we want, they'll do both. And I would like to consider both, but do this one right away, and then when we get the other one, we can look at that separately.
So when you say do both, you don't mean do both at the same time and get it to the plan. No, that's our one.
Priorities is one,
Yes, right.
and then the other one is whenever they get
Get
it.
it.
So let's just say this, the temporary ordinance was a huge, it was a giant blanket action that a fair response to was very complicated. We actually, as I'm listening, I think the best thing to do is send us back what you specifically want, say, send us a response directly to the emergency ordinance and let us sort out. I don't know if you want the same ordinance back, because we've done so many revisions to it, that's why it's having a public hearing. And in trying to layer it and make it address the very things you're talking about, and all the other, there's a lot going on, so. Tell us what you want exactly.
Okay.
And then we will continue to work on everything conceptually that Paul has, as Paul has said, so I mean, that's a done deal, because it's the problem, we're addressing all the problems with those, so.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll talk after this individually and see what we know.
I'd say, planning board, send us.
Well, she said she wants us to tell her what we want.
Well, I can do that now.
Yeah.
She wants, what you're working on is great, continue, but send us a response, a recommendation based upon the temporary ordinance.
Okay, but I think you're wanting a little more detail.
All I want is that little piece of paper I gave you with the date on it, and when you want it back,
Okay,
that's what I want.
fine. I need my copy back.
Oh, yeah.
Make more control.
Make a motion.
Oh,
It's discussion, but this is a motion, we're not approving.
If we're not.
It's a motion.
Or not.
They already have the ordinance, it's not like we're sending them a new ordinance, we just have the changes that you recommended about changes to dwellings, not home. Whether or not we wanna add the size of a connection to that one with a single water, culinary water connection, no larger than 1 inch or 3/4 inch or whatever.
Plug in
And
the size based on.
then we have to figure out, they just need to decide on the square footage.
what I would do is recommend or make a motion that the zoning and planning commission consider, temporary ordinance that was previously submitted on 2024-02 and provide us a recommendation on or before our June 21st meeting.
Oh, yes, it is June 21st. I was thinking consider that. It is June 21st. Okay. I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is our vote incorrect? Illegal? Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I guess there's a motion to adjourn. Is that the last thing on the agenda?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh,
Aye.
8:32. I don't have to be a question for